Yes, I wanted to bring it up to the present also. In reading the book by John Krakauer, Under the Banner of Heaven, my impression was that this was talking about the fundamentalist groups, that he was, as an extreme fundamentalist, believed that he got the message from God directly, not from the church or anyone else, but directly to murder.
Who's the he?
The man the book was mainly about. And my question is, in the current, the mainstream church, is the direction only from the main priest, or can individuals get messages on their own and follow them?
You're taught that you can have private revelation, but anything that affects the main body of the church has to come from the top. And there have been lots of cases where, and again, that was something I was going to bring up in just one time, is that where men will appear and say they've been given a special revelation that they are now the one that's supposed to speak for the church. And I can remember incidents when I was a teenager of that happening. Of course, they get excommunicated. Most of those people are usually mentally ill, a lot of them. But no, anything that's official that affects all the membership has to come from the top person. But you're entitled to revelation. It's like prayer, like most Christians, that you're entitled to pray and get inspiration from God for yourself and for your own family.
First of all, just a comment. This business of talking to God's not so unusual. Mother Teresa founded her order because she talked with God and got the direct message. So everybody gets direct message from God. Nothing new about this. Oh, damn it. I can't think of the former mayor of Carmel. Clint Eastwood has had children with several women, so this business of having more than one woman to have children with, H.L. Hunt had 3 different women, he had 3 different families. This business of having more than one woman to have children with, not hardly new in the sun at all. So what I want to know is, what's this business about marriage? I mean, if it had come to me to say, let's have sex because God said, I don't know, I might have tried that. But I don't understand the word marriage and wife when nobody knows anybody's married to anybody. There's no formal ceremony. I don't get why this word is being thrown around that way.
In the Mormon church, there is a formal ceremony.
No, there was no formal ceremony when Joseph is knocking up whoever's around.
No. What you have to understand is that he began to have these relationships, and when they began to be bandied about and people began to suspect their prophet, that's when he came up with this convenient revelation that he actually said an angel appeared with a sword and said he would be destroyed if he didn't live with polygamy. So then it was after the fact that he told people he'd actually married these women. At some point, he did marry them in the church so that he would be respectable. And so from that point on, they married these women. Don't forget, they believed that civil authority was null and void. So theirs was the only authority. So there was still a criteria that sex outside of marriage was wrong. So they got married. Unfortunately for Joseph, he sampled the goods many times before he married them. And I have a quote in here from a woman who was involved in polyamory with him. She says the thing that, the saddest thing in my life was hiding from my husband those times when Joseph came to me. It was just a twisted thing. Over here.
Yes, any of the things that you describe, or any of the bad things that happen in polygamous marriages, can also happen in monogamous marriages. It's not And many of these things, same things happen in religions where monogamy is practiced, but again, with the church sustaining some of the unpleasant practices. And it seems to me that you really opened a real sticky wicket here, that we protect people, protect young women from sexual predation up until the age of 18, but that there's a major loophole called marriage. And is there a way to get this consistent? Do you see a solution to the problem that maybe takes away the special status of marriage, or has a uniform age before which you have to leave the young girls alone?
Issue.
Yeah,
I mean,
but it is a sticky wicket that you've got into. These people are finding ways around the law.
I understand that, but I'm approaching this from how, traditional religion would view marriage and fidelity and stuff like that. And the only way that this whole system could be justified to many of the devout Christians who became Mormons in those days was to believe that it was an official marriage. Now, when we had the presentation on Islam, a few weeks ago, a couple of us were discussing, and I've said this in other talks before, you go back and trace almost every single major religion or cult where there is one strong male figure at the top, they all have multiple sexual partners openly. They take onto themselves the right, to have multiple women, and they manipulate, and the ages of the women get younger and younger and younger. It happens time after time. Ellie?
Hi. How much are you familiar with the groups that are currently in Mexico?
I don't know so much about what's there now, but I do know that there's been a couple of huge Mormon colonies that went there at the turn of the century, in the early 1900s, and a lot of them still live there.
Now, yes, because
But they're not polygamous.
They're not.
Well, the ones that I'm aware of, they gave it up eventually, but I'm sure there's splinter groups
I
now.
have a question because having lived in El Paso for many years, we would see people come across the border who were referred to as Mennonitas, Mennonites.
Yeah.
Are they in any way connected with this, or are they another total religion?
Mennonites are not a splinter group of the Mormons. But I'll tell you, there was another huge movement going on in the early days of the church, which was communal societies, and Mormonism adopted that, where you gave all your property to the church, and then it was divvied out just for your needs. And I don't know how many of you are aware that Aurora, Oregon, was started by one of those kind of religious groups where it was all communal property. Yeah, very interesting. But as I've traveled around the United States and studied history a little more, I've realized how many of different kinds of religious groups were going on. I know, we're done with time. I'll stick around for questions.
I have one more
Oh, yeah,
question.
one more.
We have a couple there first. Oh, Sheila, and then this and then
Give
we
me
got
five,
questions.
just give me 5 minutes.
Sue, I love what you just said
You
about
can talk to Sue after but we have to stay on time.
Okay.
what you were saying about traveling around now, because what you're saying in the last couple of sentences reminds me of the 70s and all the communes that were going around. It's human nature. And I wonder if you've made any comparison to Jamestown. Was it Jamestown? Jonestown.
Oh, absolutely.
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 Okay.
David Koresh, Jim Jones, Joseph Smith, I put them all in the same
They're all the
category.
same.
The reason, I'll say it again quickly, the only reason the Mormonism survived and didn't implode like those guys, is they went to Utah. And for 40 years they lived in the wilderness before society came in on them. And by then they were down to the 3rd generation of people, and they were entrenched. The doctrine was entrenched, the control was entrenched, the priesthood was entrenched. That's the difference.
And don't you think it's ironic or strange, and with so many women in the United States now having seen what they saw on television, with the women in their long dresses and their hairdos and their garb, they are now selling. People have asked to have those clothes.
I'm sure the Mennonites, the Amish are the ones buying them, you know. But anyway, yeah, the FLDS women are now have a website and are making their clothing and the children's clothing and so on.
We have one more
Okay,
here.
one more, okay.
Well, what I was thinking about when we started talking about polygamy and so forth is that it seems to me that a big part of the issue is that is male supremacy rather than polygamy in terms of its oppression on women.
That's a given.
Oh, there's no question.
You know, and that if it were an equal kind of relationship with some kind, it wouldn't be existing anyway. So, you know.
It's insidious, it's an insidious legacy of the original Joseph Smith stuff. And the church, just, you know, they try to deny it, but it's there, you know. Anyway, I'll be around.